Let's talk about this news for a non-UK citizen. What does it mean? He's asked for an election before. Can he get it?
So it's $1 million question. We've been calling for this election in terms of when we look at the scenarios, what's going to happen, what's most likely. For us, the politics has just looked so unsustainable in the UK Parliament for the last number of months. Inability to move forward, inability to move backwards. In the past, Johnson has tried to push this election, and crucially, the opposition Labour Party has said, no way, not until we know we're going to get an extension. We don't want to accidentally have this no deal, right? So we accidentally leave the EU without any deal on the 31st of October. Where we are now is slightly different because it is clear that the EU is going to grant that extension. The Labour Party might want to see that they're granting that extension before they actually sign, seal, deliver, yes, you can have your general election. But I think realistically that's where we're going with this, is the EU is likely to come out and say, we're going to support an extension. They've already said they will, right? So it's a timing, it's a staging issue, but it's not a kind of fait accompli.
It is a timing issue, but the timing becomes a little irrelevant here because there are reports that Mr. Emmanuel Macron of France says, well, let's just give him to November 15. If you did that, then you'd have that extension come up a month before this election would be due, as opposed to the January 31 date. So it sort of matters which one they give.
It absolutely does matter, but also the fact that this general election has been called for will condition EU responses, right? So the EU has always had the same view, which is we will provide an extension so long as we know that something is going to change. And you don't get much more change than a general election. So either Johnson wins the election and then has a mandate for that agreement, or you get a different government and you get different circumstances. So what they're hoping is something changes so that a deal can be passed so they can move on.
But does that mean, are you saying that in fact with this general election, if it gets called for December 15, it makes it more likely the extension of the EU would be January 31 because they don't want to get in the middle of a parliamentary election in the UK?
Yes. If the EU haven't made that clear over the weekend before the Monday date and the Labour Party go for it, I would be extremely surprised if the EU decided they were still not going to extend to January. I think they'll do end January if there's an election, if it's clear an election is going to take place. So it just becomes a question of which gets announced first, the extension length or the fact the election's happening.